Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the room. I hope we had a nice, restful weekend or week, depending on when was the last time that we met and we chatted. Today's subject is quite sensitive, especially given where we are as a country in South Africa. But my promise is at the end of this session, if you give me your ears for this 30 minutes, we'll be able to have tackled and shared ideas on what could happen, especially for people I've seen on our WhatsApp group. They got the degrees and they're frustrated on how do I get an internship or how do I get my career in analysis. So I think for that, for selfish reasons, we're going to be looking at that issue. And most of us who already went through that hurdle, maybe we can even, voice in and unmute and just chat to say, listen, on my side, this is how I overcame it. Like any other session, this is an open forum. I'm not just the guy who knows it all. Be free to unmute, raise your hand, agree, add whatever we could. Our topic for today is quite, challenging, I must say. Very challenging. Is the what next? So you went for your training. On this case, I'm going to be looking at the formal training. So you went to university. Then what's next? You remember last week's session, at the end, we started splitting to say, what can you do? You have two sessions. You have one where you can do as a formal education and another one where you can do with online trainings. So here, for some reason, I just feel it's fit that we look at the one where you have done some formal training. And then at some point, we'll have a dedicated session on which of these online trainings are much more relevant. So let's get started. My name is Disema Matiezi for those who don't know me. If you know me and you've been here for a couple of times, welcome back. If it's your first time here, you are welcome. Housekeeping rules are quite easy. If you have something you share with everybody, we are a community, we are family here. This session will be posted on YouTube because I think we are not streaming now. Will be posted on YouTube and you can be able to catch onto it. What we're discussing today, the topic, I'm just going to write it down here, is what's next. What's next after graduation? And for some selfish reasons, we're just putting two options there and we're going to be discussing it. First, we know it's how do you get hired? Second one is the new phenomenon that's coming through now. It's all about how do you now freelance and get work. When I wrote the book, that was quite exciting for me, but I didn't want to spend much of the book onto it. It's just a small paragraph on how do you now freelance and then get things out there. If you have the book, it's on page 20 to 21. You can have a look at it in there. But that's what we're going to be looking at, because most of us, when we go to Varsity or when you do some courses, we want to, bring back the money because all of this money is from somewhere. So we want to bring it back. So what's next after graduation? Please ignore my horrible writing. That's graduation over there. So what's next after graduation? Before we start there, I'm going to be looking at three things. And the first one is going to be what is being done when you get your IT degree. So your university days. And we're especially looking at the project that you do at university. So I know I've spent too many times in Varsity. There are different type of projects that you are asked to do. There's a project in third year, there's a project in honors. And when I'm talking about Varsity days, I'm talking about those projects that you have to do. Some small coding projects that you have to do. If you didn't do IT, this session will be new to you because you didn't have any project. But those that have done IT, I'm talking to that project that you had to do as part of your informatics or as part of your computer science project. So what you do in that one is, with our one, I think it was a website that we created for Zurich or something like that. You take those projects and you put them together, you combine them into your online profile, which you can call it your website or your digital CV. You put them together because the first thing that you are doing is you are building your project portfolio. But you're building a project portfolio on things that you're already doing at university. I don't want you to go and recreate the wheel. Before we start to say what's next after varsity, I'm just asking you to go back to your varsity days, see what did you do, collect them, and then publish them. Recently, I found that my honors project was actually quite relevant. It still is until today, because one of the times when we were doing something, my solution that I proposed was almost the same as my honors project. The only difference is that my honors project was sitting on finance, on how to do reporting on finance. This other one was now sitting on retail banking, just how do we do with products. But the same drop downs, everything else looked more or less the same. So before we start with what's next after varsity, there's some stuff within your varsity days that you can still salvage and be able to present them nicely in a way that can create a portfolio for you. If you're already out of varsity, don't cry. When we talk about number 2 and number 3, it's going to be relevant for you. So number 1, let's start with what you have in varsity. Let's look what can be salvaged. Both your third year and honors project, if you are fortunate enough to complete both of them. So I think one of them is a group project and another one is a single project. Just create a website, put them there together. So we created the bookstore, here it is. We created another one, here it is. It will be relevant when we get to number 3. Okay, so we are happy with that one. I'm just giving you easy fruits that we can just pick up before we get to getting hired. So the next session that you're going to be looking at is how do you get hired? Getting hired. We're talking about getting hired because most of us in South Africa here is as IT or analyst. It's quite difficult to set up your own company and then you start consulting. The consulting business is quite difficult to enter into. So most of the option that we have as primary option is how do you get hired? So hence why I'm talking about how do you get hired. Once the opening up your own SMME on the side becomes easier, then that will be the first option to say, how do you become an entrepreneur and sell your analysis? The reason why it becomes harder for you to get your own SME going is because you rely on other people's data. You rely on whatever a person working PTY LTD to say, hang on a second, we have this data problem. Can you come help us solve it? For that reason, then it means you're getting hired. Whether you're getting hired as a permanent or as a contractor, what matters is that you have to go work with somebody else. So this is you going into the offices on a full-time basis or on a contract to say 6 months you're going to be there. So for you to look at that one, first thing that we have to look at is for this option totally, that you going out there and getting hired. The first option that we have to look at is having a strong presence online. So the first strong online presence. And online presence, what I'm talking about is professional presence, not just on other social media. The nice social media platform that could be nicely professional will be on LinkedIn. The nice part about LinkedIn is I saw recently, about a month or 2 ago, it released AI articles. So if you are in computer science, there will be computer science articles. And what it does is AI writes stuff, and then you have to correct AI. So if it says the first thing that you do before you start with a project, you shave your hair, that's what AI is saying, then you can say, hang on a second, you don't have to shave your hair. You just need to switch on your computer. And you just correct AI, and it's a collaborative article. So I've done a lot of those collaborator articles. And what it does is on your LinkedIn profile, it gives you a badge. So you have a badge to say you are an expert in computer science, for instance, or you're an expert in Excel, or you're an expert in leadership talking, or being a receptionist. The field doesn't have to just stop with analysis. So I'm just saying it's a low-hanging fruit. You create your online presence on LinkedIn, more especially if you just graduating on Varsity or you just finish up your exams now. The thing what I would say is November, December, January, have a strong presence on LinkedIn. Try to get as many badges as possible. If you don't know the subject, you can always Google it, understand it. After you understand it, come back and write how you understand it. Nobody judges. And if you write something nice, we will always tick on it. And while you are there, number 2 is find communities that you can work with. I'm grateful that you already joined like this one, the Being an Analyst community, but also the online communities, whether it's on LinkedIn or it's on Git or one of those platforms, also allows you the opportunity for you to get, a bit of recognition or whatever, keep abreast of what's happening on a professional scale, especially when it comes to analysis. The stuff about CVs and stuff that we already know, just keep it updated. But for me, LinkedIn and joining online communities has got a bigger weight because that's where you are showing, not just telling. That's where you are showing what you can do. And if you can get the LinkedIn badge and you can get people seeing you as an active member into your community, that has much more better weight that you can put onto your resume. Remember this resume that we're talking about here. When I say resume, I'm talking about this online website that you're gonna do, showing all the projects that you've been working on. If you've been working for a long time, you'll see how we can turn that into a portfolio when you get to number 3. So just hold on with me. I'm still getting there. Okay. Another thing that I saw was quite important out of this 3 that we always forget. I mean, you are on LinkedIn, you apply for jobs, you are in communities, they recognize you, and you got a killer resume or killer CV. But the other thing that we forget is that nowadays, I don't know, for some reason, they do technical questions on interviews. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but from 2016, I've been writing questions whenever I would want to change a job. And it's something weird, especially when you want to become like a risk analyst or quantitative analyst. They would want you to make simple questions. They give you like data, like what we did on our first session when we were talking about Excel. So they'll give you data in Excel, and then they'll ask you to do a table and ask you to filter, ask you to do a simple graph. That same thing that we did on the first session, I think it's already posted. Just have a look at it. Those 5 things that we did, it's those things that I took from one of those tests that as I was going back through my files, and I'm like, oh, hang on a second. This is quite important. And I remember putting it down into the book to say it, preparing for a technical interview is quite important, because verbal interview, everybody can tell us what to do. When they ask you about yourself, say this. When they ask you about, say this. But when it comes to the technical one, that's where things actually hit the fan. Another one that we can do, don't just focus on Excel or data itself, more especially when you're looking at a senior role, like when your role starts to be senior analyst, they're looking at how can you take this into a presentation and communicate the presentation without you being there. So if you can be able to take some data, group it around and make just 1 or 2 pages in a presentation, worst case scenario, that will also help you with the communication of things. That just, if we put it here as number 5, that's just showcasing your communication skills. That is very important. If you're doing a junior job, don't stress about, sometimes they won't ask you about technical interview, or you to do a presentation. But if you're looking to become a senior analyst, definitely you have to start working on your presentation. And when I say presentation skills, I'm not just saying you're opening up PowerPoint and then just copying and pasting things there. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you sending something for meaning. So that's what's important when it comes to this point. Before I go to number 3, I don't know if there's any other hands, if everything else is clear as we are. Evelyn Kamogelo, Sophia Tebogo Olerato. I don't know if everything else is clear before I wrap it off. Oh, I still got some space down there.
Yeah, everything is clear.
Everything is clear, hey? So this is
Yes.
us getting a job, an interview. There's 2 things, very important. They throw people off. That's because we used to do it when we threw a few people off in a technical interview and also on the communication skills. After that, we cut you off. Because if you have a chance, I mean, other like Pnet and them won't tell you how many people applied. But on LinkedIn, you can see a job goes in and 700 people apply just to become a business analyst. How do they sift people? They send you a technical thing first. And then the first one to answer it correctly is the one that's going to get the verbal interview. So you're waiting for a verbal interview, but you get clapped on a technical one, or they send you another one. And then they say, turn that into a presentation and send it to us, the data into a presentation, and you get clapped by that because you didn't prepare for this too. Online, everywhere else on YouTube, they talk about, the online verbal interview, posture and all of that. But for me, I'm saying not really important. I haven't been looking for those things when I help, other teams hire. We always look at the technical abilities and the ability to communicate. Okay. Number 3, this one is starting to get popularity or traction, and I'm loving it, is the ability to, let's just call it how to freelance. How to freelance is becoming very popular thanks to COVID, because without COVID, this would have been a secret that stays with the consultants until they died, because they never would have opened up opportunities for us. But working from home and the shortage of people to analyze data, like we said in last week's session, that the market is actually growing and there's a shortage of people, like in what an article that was written in Business Tech earlier on this year to say there's a huge shortage of analysts. How to freelance is becoming much more important. Now, please don't confuse freelancing with contract, because freelancing is where you have, it's where somebody or a small business or a big business, doesn't matter, they send you a project and they say, we're looking for a person to help in this type of project. And then you apply on that project and you work on that project only. And then after that, after the project stops, off you go. Or they want you for just a day or 2 just to help out while somebody's not there, or they're struggling to figure something out. That's what freelancing is. Contract or permanent, that's where it's like being permanent. You just go in every day for a specific period. Freelancing is, I mean, you list yourself to say, I'm very good with Excel. So for instance, call me when you have Excel information, or I'm very good in communicating data into PowerPoint presentation and using tools like ThinkCell. If you say I'm good with ThinkCell, it's one of the tools that we're using to take Excel graphs and make them into nice presentation graphs on PowerPoint. So you can say I'm good with that. If you have a problem or you want to present something in ThinkCell, call me, I have a license, because the license is also quite pricey. That's freelancing. Now, there are communities that you can register on, but the first thing that they're going to need in that portfolio and that community website that you register on is a strong portfolio. Now, when you talk about strong portfolio, here I'm not talking about Mickey Mouse type of projects anymore. So the project that you have on 3rd year are good enough for you to get hired, They are good enough for you to add into a CV to say, oh, shame, you went through, the extra burden, not just creating a CV, but you created a website where you showcased your project. This helps. But when it comes to freelancing, the portfolio of projects that we're looking for are quite tough projects that we're looking at. The freelancing is for people that's got, like a couple of years of experience. When you come back and you say, I've been doing marketing, whatever, for 5 years, for SAB, for whatever the case is, then you become extremely strong in this case on freelancing. So when you say a strong portfolio of tangible projects that you've been working on, or if you're like me, you've been working for a long time, then you can say, I've been working for 2 decades. And I've worked on this and that projects together. That creates a portfolio. And then you can go into this communities and then post yourself. Now, which communities are these that you can post yourself? Number 2, I'm just going to say websites. I'm just going to call them that. So this website could be, I think the other one is called Upwork, that I was quite impressed with. Upwork, and I think the other one is called Freelancer. There's another one called Fiverr, but Fiverr is much more favorable to like social media type of thing. If you want the person to edit, want the person to create a website, it's not quite intense on analyst work, but I think the other one, Upwork and Freelancer, are quite analyst intensive. If you are an analyst and you're good in Excel, in SAS, or in SQL, that's where probably you would get a good recognition. And I suggest this for people that are working. If you're on the line now and you've been working for a long time, please register yourself in there and start to, you just put up a post. You say, I've been working on this type of project for 5 years. If you're looking for somebody, let me know. And then when they email you back, then only then do you put in your rates. So it takes us to another point, which is, once I'm talking about the rates, the mistake that most of us do is we don't have the clearly defined rates. So we don't know, a person who walks in doesn't know how much are we charging. Our rates are not clearly defined. But if you clearly define your rate and you say, my rate is 1,000 Rand an hour, other people cannot comprehend per hour rating. You can say my rate is 15,000 per project, and a project that takes 5 days is 15,000. Project that takes, the whole month, it will be 45,000. Something like, you are clear in how much you want to be involved in a project. So when you make it, let's negotiate. Most people will say, hey, we might get, in for a surprise, and then you skip. Another tip that I got from a mentor is, when you do a rate, do not do market related. Do not say market related. When you see your neighbor charging 200 Rands an hour, do not go and charge 200 Rands an hour. Charge your own rate, because it's your own time and your own resource and your own ability to solve that problem. So charge your own time. If your rate is higher than the market or lower than the market, it's all up to you. It's your rate, and it stops there. There's nothing that you can do on that side. If you're full-time freelancer, unlike when you're doing it part-time, you're gonna have to advertise yourself. It's not good enough to say, I'm registered on Upwork or freelancer.com and I'm gonna wait for a call. Some of these people, you'll see them having YouTube channels, or you being active on Instagram and them. So number 4 is use social media. Use social media as an advertising medium. Okay, it's because once people see how you do your VLOOKUPs on social media, then when they ask you, your rates are uploaded on Upwork or on Freelancer, they can already book there. And when you do your stuff, whatever your whatever stuff that you do on TikTok and stuff, always refer people to say a call to action, go to Upwork or Freelancer to get my rate, something like that. Okay. So that's just on this side. And then the most important thing that we cannot let go of is the networking, which is number 5. Very, very important. You still have to network. On Freelancer, it becomes intensive marketing. That's why I grouped this two right here. So this is your marketing so that people can know you. And thus far, I worked with a few people that were on a freelancer basis, but they were, digital people. They can edit and work with cameras and do a little bit of analysis. It's quite hectic to be here and doing it full time. So when you come here, if you are full-time employed, you can come here on a basis. If you are on a part-time basis, meant to say, if you're a graduate and you're starting, it's easier to impress here with your skills when getting hired. But as soon as your portfolio becomes a little more bigger, rather upgrade your portfolio and go into freelancing right away. So it's that's just my uptake. So we're just gonna do a round robin just to feel how we go. I don't know who wants to go in first. Evelyn, Tebogo. Just to say how did the session go? If you have any other question, it's also a nice time before we close. I see we are left with 2 minutes. Evelyn?
Mr. December.
Hey, Tebogo, how's it?
Good news and good evening to everyone who's in the session. No, for now, I don't have any questions, but I just appreciate the information that you just shared. If I have any questions, obviously, I'll ask during the progression of your sessions. So for now, I'm actually into IT, but not into analysis, but I can already see how I can apply your methods to what I'm doing. So thank you.
Yeah, true. It's quite nice because on your side, like we've spoken earlier, the other time, you can fit everywhere here. So you can be able to, I would say, because you've spent a lot of time here on getting hired, it's time that you build your portfolio and you go freelancing. But now when you upload on Upwork or Freelancer, these are the international rates, which works on our favor as South Africans. Because if we load something in dollars, I mean, we're going to have to multiply by almost 20 times whatever our rate is, which works on our favor. And the work that they post internationally might be the stuff that we can also do. It's just that it's irritating for them to do it. They got $20. They can pay $20. But to us, $20 is almost $200 for something that a quick VLOOKUP and you send it out. Within 15 minutes, you are done. So you just make $200. Others, you can just make an easy. I remember one person was saying sometimes you can just read they make you read a report and then you just give out a small summary on the report for 2,000 rands. To them, that site is almost $150. So they can be able to pay $150 and you are just the expert that just read the report. So I think for your side, I think working on that could actually quite help. Yeah. Thanks, Tebogo, for that. I don't know if there's anybody else who's got their session before we close. Question, I meant to say, or comment before we close.
Yes, hi. So this is Evelyn.
Hi, Evelyn.
Hi. So yes, I really enjoyed the session, and I think for me, I'm still in the beginning phase, if I can put it that way. So I'm still more of a graduate, and I've done online courses in introduction to corporate finance, quantitative modeling, and I have an honors in economics. So I think for me, it's starting to build up my portfolio.
Happy.
So that I can, yes.
Okay, cool. And your intent on that one is what, for freelancing or for finding a job?
I was thinking both. I think for now it's, okay, I was thinking both. So finding a job and also doing freelancing. So I'm not sure where I am going to land, but then hopefully I'm going to be able to do both.
Happy. I'm assuming everybody is on the WhatsApp group. So probably tomorrow, the day after, on the WhatsApp group, I'll share some of the resources on, websites that you can do on freelancing. I know we had shared those on the newsletter, but it was a while back. We are humans. I also forget sometimes. So maybe I can share them, but now in the WhatsApp group and not on the newsletter. Just to say, if you want to register yourself as a freelancer, click on here and register yourself, or use your LinkedIn account or register through your Google account. They are quite convenient like that. So that at least you can, as an honors student, you can already say, I'm doing econometrics and I can do financial modeling and this is the project that I had to do, because I think you have to do some project with econometrics, eh?
Yes, you do.
And you can take that project here and then use it, but you have to now create a website, find somebody who can make a website and then make it nicely for you, so that when you say, I can do, and then you send them to that link where your econometrics project is, with your presentation, because after that model, after that project, you have to present it to say, what does it mean, hey? Yeah, so all of that can actually work on your favor.
Okay, all right, thank you. And in terms of the WhatsApp group, is it possible to get the link? I'm not on the WhatsApp group.
Okay, I'll post it now on the chat. Yeah, I'll post it now so that we can be able to be included.
All right, thank you.
Happy. I don't know if there's any other question as I'm looking for that link to the WhatsApp group. There we go. We found it.
Okay, it's more of a comment.
Yes.
I think also I'm at the get hired phase, but I've already been hired. I'm sorry, I'm not part of the economics.
Yes,
I'm
true.
an applied mathematician, so yeah, I'm also into analysis, not IT, like the actual analysis. I'm a data analyst. Yeah, I think I don't know about freelancing, because most of like in my line of work, like they stop you. They don't want you to actually go freelancing. They just tell you on the contract, they're like, okay, do not do that. You shouldn't be working for any party. And so, so I don't know how I could actually do freelancing, but I actually love how you say like how to put up your resume and all, because I had to go through that to get that, like my current job right now. And yeah, it is hard. It is hard to do that.
And it's quite funny. None of the books about getting jobs, they don't tell you about the technical test and the presentation. They don't tell you about that. But then you go and there's this long psychometric test that you have to do. There's this test that you have to do, and you just lose it at one point.
That's true, because I remember like I was on the last interview. They opened up like Google BigQuery and they're like, okay, write some SQL like queries. And I'm like, okay, I thought you're gonna ask me about who I am, and and they just catch you off guard. Like they do.
And I must say that that's us in an interview. We like to do that because we say, even if your breath stink, we want somebody else who understand how to write a query. And the first day that you come into the work, we send you our queries. We like, this is my query. Just check if there's anything broken there. And then you realize, I mean, in Varsity, you are used to this, a short code. That's like 10 lines probably that's all that you write. And now I'm giving you a 7-page long query, and you're like, where? They're like, no, take your time. You got a week to tell us what's wrong with it. So I know I've been on both sides of the coin.
Yeah,
it's not like but I know that's the only way. Because if I'm not there, I'm on a holiday, and it breaks, you have to figure out that 7-page long query. Where does it go? But yeah. Okay, without further ado, I see I already went over the meeting by 5 minutes. Let's close. We're gonna chat again on